Hare Krishna. So, welcome all the devotees. Thank you for joining in our Tuesday evening Bhagavad Gita discussion. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim Yatkripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinatarini Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Once again, welcome everyone to our Tuesday evening Bhagavad Gita discussion. So last time we finished chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita, which was titled as Karma Sannyas Yoga. Now we will be moving into the sixth chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Now, sixth chapter of Bhagavad Gita is titled as Dhyana Yoga. Okay, and it's also called Atma Sanyam Yoga. Atma Sanyam here refers to controlling the mind. Atma word here refers to mind. Atma Sanyam. So controlling the mind, the yoga for controlling the mind. So that is the title for this chapter. Now in chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna had spoken about the difference in karma sannyas versus karma yoga and what is better for people in general. It started with Arjuna's question, what is better? Is karma sannyas better or karma yoga better? Lord Krishna describes that in general, karma yoga is better while staying in the world, doing one's duty, but detaching from the result of one's activity. And for certain people who do take to the path of karma sannyas, ultimately they can also reach to that state of liberation. And by purifying their mind, by controlling their mind, the desires, the urges for the mind and the desire, urges for the desire and anger, by controlling those, they can also attain to liberation. And then what process the karma sannyas people take? That ultimately they take to the process of dhyana yoga to control their senses and mind. And then the last verse of chapter 5 was Lord Krishna speak about the peace formula, that ultimately when somebody accept Krishna as the supreme controller, the supreme proprietor, the supreme lord of everything, that person can attain the ultimate peace. So that was chapter 5. And then now continuing on to chapter 6, Lord Krishna is describing in detail about the process of dhyana yoga, or in other words, the process of controlling the mind. The way we discussed the acronym for chapter 5, anybody remember what was the acronym for chapter 5 which we used to remember what is the content of chapter 5?
Step.
Step. Yes. What does step mean? What are the different terminology of step, the different letter denotes?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Step S stand for stay in this world and perform your duties. Then T stand for three doers, E stand for equal vision, and P stand for peace formula.
Okay, very good. So that was the acronym for chapter 5 to kind of understand the flow of the chapter. So now for chapter 6, kind of as a bird's eye view to remember the overall flow of the chapter, the acronym we will use is EASY, EASY. Okay, so that is the acronym for chapter 6. And what is the flow of this chapter? Now, E stands for enemy. That mind generally is considered as the enemy of the person, and the same mind can act as a friend also. If the mind remains uncontrolled, that is the worst enemy of the person. But if the mind is controlled, that the mind can become the friend of the person. So the first section of chapter, text 1 through text 9, Krishna is talking about the nature of mind, how the mind tricks. And so that is enemy or friend. Then the next section is EA. A is Ashtanga Yoga. Then Lord Krishna talk about this process of Ashtanga Yoga. What are the different limbs of this Ashtanga Yoga process? And what are the prerequisite to be able to perform this Ashtanga Yoga or to get to the stage of perfection in this process of Ashtanga Yoga? So that is text 10 through 33 all the way. It talks about this Ashtanga Yoga process, or even actually up to text 36. Then 37, again Arjuna's question come that this mind seems to be, or this process of Ashtanga Yoga, the process of Dhyana Yoga seems to be too difficult to practice. It is easy to control the wind than to control the mind. And then Lord Krishna gives the answer how to control the mind. And then again Arjuna's question come, what is the situation of the person who is not able to hit the finish line? Okay, somebody who is not able to gain 100% success in this spiritual practice, what happens to that unsuccessful yogi? So S, EASS is success or failure. Okay, so what happens if one is not successful, if one is failed in that process? And then the last two verses again, Lord Krishna talks about why yogi, who is considered as the best yogi. Again, Lord Krishna will introduce the concept of bhakti yoga along with dhyana yoga to gain the complete success in this process of dhyana yoga. So that is EASY, enemy or friend, Ashtanga yoga, then success or failure, and then Y, yogi. So that is the overall flow of this chapter. Now, further in text 1 through 9, Lord Krishna speaks about the advancement in the stage of yoga. So there are two steps, two stages defined. One is Araruksha. Araruksha means as the beginning stage towards advancement. And then the second is Arudha. Arudha means the advancement stage when one is situated in the advancement. Like we say, Ratha Arudha, right? One is situated on the chariot. Lord Vishnu riding on the Garuda, he is called as Garuda Arudha, but he is situated on Garuda. So Arudha stage means when one is already situated in the state of dhyana. So from beginning stage, that is Aruruksha, and then the advancement stage is called Arudha stage. And then verse 10 through 32 is starting from the practice, reaching to the stage of perfection in yoga, coming to the stage of realization of Brahman, then realization of Paramatma, then realization of Bhagwan aspect of the Lord. And then 33 to 37 is dealing with mind, and mind is the main obstacle in yoga, in dhyana, right? To reach to the stage of samadhi. And then if the mind deviates the yogi, what is the destination, right? If somebody is not able to reach to that ultimate success, reach to the finish line, so what is the destination then? Is he lost completely, that he failed in spiritual life also and he failed in material life also? So Krishna answers that. So that is in nutshell, this chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita. Now, one may consider this Bhagavad Gita chapter 6 is Dhyana Yoga. Lord Krishna is in detail describing the process of dhyana, how one starting from the first stage as yama niyam to the stage of samadhi, how one practices this process of dhyana yoga. But that is not the case. Lord Krishna is not going in like too much details of this Ashtanga yoga process, telling each and everything as a manual. Bhagavad Gita is not a manual for all the yogas. Yes, Lord Krishna talks about karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, bhakti yoga, but still it is not a manual. When we say manual, manual means something like a how to document, right? As a user's manual, when we say user's manual or a how to manual, which describes step by step approach. Like, okay, you first click on this button, then this window will pop up, then you click on this button. So that is like a how to document. But Bhagavad Gita is not like a how to document, but Bhagavad Gita is a guidebook. Okay, there is a difference between manual and a guidebook. It gives a basic guideline, and Krishna here is giving a glimpse of Dhyana Yoga process, Ashtanga Yoga process. So Krishna in chapter 5 and now continuing with chapter 6 is now talking about mind, and Krishna says it is all about the mindset. Okay, mindset means not being attached to the karma or the result of karma, but doing it as a matter of duty. Okay, that is more important. So one should not get into the mindset of doership, mindset of possessiveness, mindset of enjoyment propensity. Otherwise, one is bound in this material world. If mind is not controlled, or if the enjoyment propensity is not gone, then one may even renounce the worldly activities, go to the forest, but still one will be attached. There also one may go and build his hut, build his ashram, put some plants all around, and maybe have a pond, and then he will become attached to those things. Oh, this all belongs to me. These plants are my property. This pond is my property. So one may get attached there also if one is not free from this proprietorship mentality, doership mentality, enjoyment mentality. So now text 1, Lord Krishna is speaking about, let me open, sorry, Bhagavad Gita. So text 1, Lord Krishna speaks, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Anashritah Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karoti Yah Sah Sannyasi Cha Yogi Cha Na Niragnirna Kat Na Cha Kriyah. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obliged, as he is obligated, is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, nor he who lights no fire and perform no duty. So here, focus is on sannyasi and yogi. Okay, so in one sense, Krishna says sannyasi and yogi is same person. Sannyasi means one who is detached, and yogi means who try to connect with the Supreme Lord. So in karma sannyas, if somebody is detached from the material world but still not connected with the Lord, he may put a dress of sannyasi, he may wander around, take bath in the river, eat whatever he gets from others, but he just lays down and then he does nothing. Right? He does not perform any spiritual duties also, spiritual responsibilities also. Here example given is in this verse, he does not light a fire, because lighting a fire is considered as a duty for somebody as performing the yajna. So somebody does not even perform his obligated duty, then what kind of yogi, what kind of sannyasi is that person? On the other side, a karma yogi, one may work as per one's prescribed duty, but not attached to the results. So he is detached from the result of one's activity, and then he is connecting the result with the Lord. So he is a sannyasi as well as a yogi also. So sannyasi and yogi here is focused on this verse. The terminology used here is sannyasi and yogi. So work without the attraction for fruits. And people generally need some motivation, right? Motivation in the sense, what will be the fruit of this work? If I do this activity, then what do I get out of this? If I play this match, then the target is I want to win this trophy. So people perform any work with desire of result. But the purpose of Karma Yoga here is work without the attraction of fruits, just as a matter of duty. Okay. So sometime people say that the children should not be taught Bhagavad Gita. People who are materialistic, right? They have this sort of notions. Oh, children should not be taught Bhagavad Gita because if they read Bhagavad Gita in young age, they will become vairagi, they will become renounced, anasakta, right? The word used in this word, Krishna is saying, anashritah karma phala karyam karma karoti cha. So they will become disinterested in this material world, the activities of this material world. So they will not be engaging in these activities of material world or in their responsibilities, and they will become just useless, nithalla. So that's why Bhagavad Gita should be read later on when you become kind of vanprastha as a retired person. So children should not be taught Bhagavad Gita. But here, what Lord Krishna is telling here in the first verse, Lord Krishna is saying one should perform one's duty as he is obliged to do, but one should become unattached to the fruit of his work. Okay, so people think, oh, if the person becomes read Bhagavad Gita, he will become Vairagi. But Lord Krishna is not telling that here. Lord Krishna is saying, no, you should still perform your duty. Only thing is become detached to the result. Problem is people are so much attached, and generally parents think, oh, my child, he will become completely Vairagi and he will not take care of me. He will renounce everything, he will give up family also, and not take care of his parents also. But right now if we see, the problem is other way. Children do not want to take care of their parents, thinking, what do I get out of that, right? Because they are attached to their wife, their children, and they think that is my family, and my parents who are old now, they are like as an obligation, or they are like a liability for me, and I don't want to take care of them. Just like the cow, when the cow stop giving milk, when the cow does not give birth to the calf now and does not give milk also, so the owner may think, oh, what is the use of this cow for me? Why should I spend my time and energy on this cow? Better I just sell this cow for slaughtering. So same way, the children who are not trained properly, they are, because they are asakta with their own spouse, family, or children, they don't want to take care of the parents. But here, somebody who has learned Bhagavad Gita, what Bhagavad Gita is teaching is one should become anasakta. One should not be attached to the result of one's work, but one should do the duty as an obligation. So somebody who has learned Bhagavad Gita, he will be more well trained to do his duties in terms of taking care of the parents also, in terms of taking care of the family also. So he, in that sense, somebody performing his duty as a matter of responsibility, he is more as a sannyasi and a yogi. Just like in the purport, Prabhupada gives the example, the part of the body, they work for the satisfaction of the whole body. The limbs of the body do not act for their own satisfaction. Okay? The hand, the eyes see the food, then the hand goes and picks up the food, then the hand puts that food in the mouth provides that food into the belly, and where it get digested and the energy is spread throughout the body. Okay, so the hands or the eyes, they do not think, oh no, no, I want to keep it to myself. Hand doesn't think I want to keep it to myself. Why should I put it into the mouth? But all the body limbs, they work together for the satisfaction of the whole body. And in that way, the whole body is nourished. Similarly, the living entity who acts for the satisfaction of the Supreme and not for personal satisfaction, in that way he performs his duty in relation to everything else also, everybody else also, and that person becomes as a perfect sannyasi and perfect yogi. So that is the first verse of this chapter. Lord Krishna is talking about who is a sannyasi and a yogi, and then in the second verse the focus is more on the process means sannyas and yoga. यम संन्यासम इति प्रहुर योगम तम विधि पांडवः न हि असन्न्यास्ता संकल्पो योगी भवति कश्चनः. What is called renunciation, you should know to be the same as yoga, or linking oneself with the Supreme, O son of Pandu. For one can never become a yogi unless he renounces the desire for sense gratification. So one cannot even become a yogi unless one renounces the desire for sense gratification. Okay, so basically when yoga is there, sannyas has to be there. Okay, one cannot become a yogi without becoming detached. And people these days, they may do some sort of yoga, right? People are working in the offices in the morning, they may do some yoga, some pranayam or some asana, but is that really yoga? Do they really have control on their senses or control on their minds? Why they are doing that sort of yoga is so that they can enjoy better, right? So the purpose of yoga is to gain some health, or at the most to gain some peace of mind. And why somebody want to gain health or gain peace of mind? So that I can enjoy better. So the purpose is not to become detached, but actually there is attachment towards a sense object. So that person is not a yogi or not a sannyasi. So yoga means sannyasa has to be there. And all these activities of yama, niyama, they are to control the senses while still living in this world. So in Ashtanga yoga process, there are 8 stages, Ashtanga, right? The 8 limbs of this yoga process. And the first four steps of this Ashtanga yoga, one can practice while doing karma yoga also, because those are regulations. And the next 4 stages are to lift from the initial stage to arudha stage. And the real aim for a living entity is to give up the selfish satisfaction and be ready to satisfy the Supreme Lord. So here in this verse, Lord Krishna uses one very important word, which is sannyasat sankalpo. Taking the sankalpa for sannyasa means taking the sankalpa for giving up the desire for enjoyment. Okay, so if we see text 1 and 2 of this chapter, in text 1, focus is on the person. Same person is a sannyasi and a yogi. Anashritah karma phalam. Basically, he is unattached to the result of one's work. And in text 2, the focus is on the path. Both sannyas and yoga require a common denominator, and that is sannyas sankalp. The desire, giving up the desire for enjoyment, taking that sankalpa. Now, text 3 to 3 onwards now, there it starts more on this mind game, how the mind plays so many games with us. So text 3 and 3, Lord Krishna is speaking about these two terminology which I mentioned earlier, Aruruksha and Arudha stage. So 6.3, Arurukshor muneryogam karma karanam uchyate yoga arudasya tasyeva samah karmana uchyate samah karanam uchyate. Translation: for one who is a neophyte in the Eightfold Yoga system, work is said to be the means. And for one who is already elevated in yoga, cessation of all material activities is said to be the means. So the two word used here is aruruksha and second is arurudha. Arudha. So Arurukshu and Arudha. Arurukshu is the initial stage of the Ashtanga Yoga, the first four stages, and Arudha stage is the next four stages of this Ashtanga Yoga process. So somebody who is beginner in this Ashtanga Yoga process, still practicing the first four limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, it says the work is said to be the means, that one should practice those while engaging in one's worldly duties. And the Arudha stage, one can practice when one has given up the worldly responsibilities also. One has come to that level of practice, that stage, that now one can continue in this practice and one can cease all the other external activities. So, understanding this verse, Yoga Aruruksha, the first four stages, which are Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayam. Okay, so these activities one can continue, one can start doing these rules and regulations while one is practicing one's activity. Basically, while doing Karma Yoga, one can practice these first four stages also. And then the Arudha stage, which includes Pratyahara, Dhyan, Dharana, Samadhi. That is cessation of work, will help in leading towards these activities. So when we say not doing work, means not doing the activities based on one's varnashrama. For example, the Brahmana is supposed to perform the yajna, yajan, patan, patan, basically does not interact with the outer world. So when we say not doing work means do not interact with the outer world when one is now focusing more internally. One is not doing one's activity based on Varna ashram, but one's doing activity only based on one's real position as the living entity, the spirit soul. So practicing one's eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord. And in text 4, now Krishna talks about the characteristics of reaching to the stage of Yoga Arudha. What are three characteristics mentioned there in Yoga Arudha stage? That when one has these three characteristics, then one can reach to the stage of Yoga Arudha. Yada hi na indriyartheshu na karma swajanushyat अनुषज्यते सर्वसंकल्प संन्यासी yoga arudha tad uchyate. A person is said to be elevated in yoga when having renounced all material desires. He neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities. So, three things are mentioned here if we pay attention to the words. What is Lord Krishna telling here? First is na indriya artheshu. It does not engage in sense gratification. Na indriya artheshu. Then the second thing mentioned is na karmasava anusajjate. He does not engage in fruitive activities which will lead to sense gratification. So he does not want to engage in those activities also which will lead to sense gratification. And then C is sarva sankalpa sannyasi. He takes the vow to not desire sense gratification. So these are the three characteristics which, when practiced, lead to yoga arudha, means advancement in this process of Ashtanga Yoga. Okay, text 5. So to reach to the stage of Arudha, Yoga Arudha, what is the main obstacle? That main obstacle is mind. Okay, so during our journey in this material world, we are accompanied by the voice within. There is always some internal voice going on. Okay, and what is that internal voice? That is the voice of the mind. And we all have experienced that, right? Sometimes we say there are bad dog and good dog inside. Both are barking. Whom do you listen? And that two barking dogs is the voice of the mind and the voice of the intellect. Or in other way, somebody may say there's devil sitting on one shoulder and angel sitting on the another shoulder, right? On in movies also sometimes they say one person, he is in a confused stage. He is thinking, what should I do? On one shoulder there is a devil like person sitting with black clothes and horns on the head. On the other shoulder with white clothes, some angel like personality is sitting, and they are both trying to tell what you should do. So in the middle there is a confused person in between. So the mind is the voice within, which is storehouse of the memories and experiences that offer options to the living entity. So based on all these collected experiences, collected memories, the mind is continuously providing us different thoughts and different options. And when the mind is uncontrolled, it will agitate us, it will misguide us, and it will entangle us within this world, forcing us to succumb to the lower nature of lust, anger, greed, envy, pride. So the uncontrolled mind will force us to this lower tendencies. And Krishna is now speaking about this nature of mind. When we talk about mind control, what do you think of mind control? Okay, as soon as we speak about mind control, what do you think of mind control? So before we start reading text 5 onwards, I want to hear from you. What do you think of mind control?
Having control over our
Yes, one at a time. Yes, Bhageshwi Mataji.
having control over our desires, anger,
Okay, having control over our desires, anger. Okay. Skanda Prabhu?
Yeah. So I was saying mind control is difficult because you have to control your senses. So yeah, I mean, you need to be able to control your senses and your thoughts.
Okay, so controlling one's senses and thoughts. Basically, yeah, controlling the mind means controlling your thoughts. Yes. Okay. Anybody else? Raju Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, mind control means that mind is dominating the intelligence. So then you need to shift to uh, intelligence should be control instead of mind control.
Okay. Instead of mind controlling the intelligence, intelligence should be controlling the mind. Okay, so yeah,
Yes.
that is practically that's what is needed. Okay, Vijay Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. See, if you go one step, backwards, it is also controlling your thoughts. Your thoughts will always be able to, uh, manipulate the mind. So, when controlling the thoughts, also one step backwards is mind control. What is the kind of thoughts which are arising? Actions, of course, are there, but
Okay. So
Thoughts,
ultimately, your statement is also controlling mind means controlling our thoughts, right? Sometime, okay, so now when we say mind control, many people think mind control means making the mind free from the thoughts. Okay, so removing all the unnecessary thoughts going into the mind, that is mind control. In my understanding, based on all these years of whatever I've heard and read, there are two aspects to mind control. Okay, one aspect, the first thing is to purify the mind, and the second thing is to concentrate the mind. Okay, to focus the mind on single object or single activity, which we say be in the present moment, right? The norm these days used is being present in the on one particular task. So these are the two aspects of mind control. First thing is purify the mind. Right now in our mind there may be so many negative thoughts, so much of negativity may be there, bad emotions, bad feelings may be there. So first step is to remove those negative emotions, negative feelings, negative thoughts. Basically, right now our mind is on the negative scale. Just consider a scale, right, from -100 to +100. So first step is to bring the mind from negative scale to 0. So that is purifying the mind. And then the second step is to focus the mind on the positive, focus the mind on one particular activity. Like when we are chanting, focusing on the chanting, right? That is mind focus. So control includes these two aspects. Now let's read text 5 onwards, what Lord Krishna is telling in terms of mind control. So text 5, उदारेद आत्मना आत्मनाम न आत्मनाम अवसादयेत आत्मैव हि आत्मनो बंधुर आत्मैव रिपुर आत्मनः. So interestingly, if you say atma word is used so many times in this word, okay, and atma can refer to body, atma can refer to mind, atma can refer to soul, as you see in this verse. So based on the context how this word is used, it can denote all these three things. It can denote the living entity, it can denote the mind, it can denote the body also. So the translation of this verse is, one must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade oneself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. Atmeva hi atmano bandhur. Atmeva ripur atmanah. So Atma is the friend of Atma and Atma is the enemy of Atma. If you just use the word Atma here. So what does it mean is, mind is the friend of the living entity also, and mind is the enemy of the living entity as well. So that is what Lord Krishna is saying in this word, that mind is very difficult entity. We should deliver ourselves with the help of mind and not degrade ourselves. Why? Because in this material world, in a degraded stage of mind, if we listen to the mind so much, then we will be further degraded. Okay, then our downfall will happen further. So rather than degrading ourselves, we should try to purify our mind and deliver ourselves with the help of mind. So the door of mind is the door to the consciousness. If our mind is only towards the material objects, okay, then our consciousness also flows towards the materialistic things only. So if somebody's mind is too much materialistic, he thinks everything in terms of material objects only. For example, if somebody is very materialistic person and you give that person some gift, that person will start calculating the value of that gift. Oh, maybe this gift is $20. Oh, maybe this gift is $30. Okay, so that person is calculating that from material point of view. He is not looking the emotions, the feelings of the person who has given that gift. Okay, so that is the material mind leads to material consciousness. The same way somebody very materialistic person comes to temple also, he thinks everything from material point of view. Or he thinks, oh, this floor, this marble floor looks very nice. Oh, this chandelier looks very nice. So this Mataji wearing this nice sari, nice jewelry. This is a very nice sari, very nice jewelry. Because materialistic person, everything consciousness is also materially derived only. So whichever way the door open, our consciousness goes that way. If the mind is too much materially aligned, our consciousness also gets connected with that material things. If mind opens towards the spiritual realm, then our consciousness also goes towards that. So mind is the doorway. And that's why Krishna here says, for somebody, so mind is our friend also, and mind is our enemy also. For the man whose minds remain uncontrolled, for that person, mind is the biggest enemy. And for a person who has controlled the mind, that mind becomes the best friend. So for the man, mind is the cause of bondage also, and mind is the cause of liberation also. So Prabhupada quotes in the purport one very nice verse here from Amrita Bindu Upanishad. It says, Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayah. Bandhaya vishaya sango muktaye nirvishayam manah. So for a man, the mind is the cause of bondage and mind is the cause of liberation. Mind absorbed in sense objects is the cause of bondage, and mind detached from sense object is the cause of liberation. So mind can take us to both ways. Mind can cause our bondage also in this material world, and mind can cause our liberation also from this material world. What is the factor involved here is if the mind is controlled or not, if the mind is connected or attached to the sense object, or mind is detached from the sense objects. So as long as the mind remains unconquered enemy, one has to serve the dictations of the mind in terms of coming to the lower nature as lust, anger, greed, illusion, envy, pride, etc. But when the mind is conquered, then one voluntarily agrees to abide by the dictations of the Supreme Lord, who is situated in everybody's heart as Paramatma. Okay, we have to follow somebody. Either we follow Krishna or we follow Maya, and Maya's instrument is this mind, right? So either we follow the dictation of the Supreme Lord or we follow the dictations of mind. So, and we all can relate to that. Our mind distract us is in so many ways. From morning till evening, our mind is running here and there. And last two classes, I gave a couple of examples how uncontrolled mind can lead to such a big problem, right? We keep going into so many different thoughts. Up from one thought to another thought to another thought, it keeps going on and on. It's just endless loop of thoughts continuously going on. In the morning, you want to wake up and mind is proposing, oh, sleep for another 15 more minutes, or you are still very tired, you are having maybe back pain, or you are having this or that, maybe take another 15-minute rest. So mind is proposing, and if we listen to the mind and think, oh yeah, mind, he's my true friend, he's telling me what I should do, so maybe I should take another little bit more rest. And when there is little quarrel, little argument between two people, again mind is going into endless loop and finding out from the storehouse of memory what that other person had done to me previously. Okay, it brings out all that data and start proposing, oh, this person has done this to you, he had done this to you, he had done this to you. Even though the person may have said sorry 100 times for that now, but the mind is again bringing up all those, and the quarrel continues to increase. The little argument becomes into a big quarrel. And when there is little disagreement between two people, mind is continuously proposing, oh, that person is going to say this, then you should say this. That person will say this, then you should say this. Right? So we continuously keep going into that combination permutation. What I'm going to say next, what I'm going to say next. So mind continuously keep proposing. And based on the dictations of mind, we get into so many troubles, so many problems in terms of relationship problems, in terms of health problems also, because of the dictations of mind. We may not have really any bodily problem, but because of mind is proposing, we may start feeling, yes, I may have that problem. So that is the nature of mind. And Krishna says, do not listen to the mind. Do not listen to the dictations of mind. Rather, try to control your mind, purify your mind, and focus your mind for the ultimate benefit of the living entity. Now, moving on to text. Which one did we read? Text 5. So, moving on to next text. So, 5 and 6 were connected together. Krishna further says, बंधुर आत्मनस्तस्य येन आत्मनैवात्मनः जितः अनात्मनास्तु शत्रुवते वर्ते आत्मनैव शत्रुवत्. For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends, but for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. So we already discussed this one. And text 7, Lord Krishna talks about the principle of somebody who has conquered the mind. What is his situation? He is free from the dualities. Jitatmanah prashantasya paramatma samahita shitoshna sukha dukkheshu tatha mana apamanayo. For one who has conquered the mind, the supersoul is already reached, for he has attained tranquility. To such a man, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. So very, very important verse, and we should try to memorize this verse actually. What is this verse saying is, somebody who has controlled the mind, he is above all the dualities. So the dualities can come at 3 different levels. Okay, so there could be dualities at the level of body. That's why here the example given is heat and cold. Shitoshna, the feelings at the level of body. Then sukha dukkheshu, happiness and distress, that is at the level of mind. Because the thinking, willing, feeling, that is at the level of mind. Then mana apamana, fame and infamy, honor or dishonor, that is at the level of ego. So one could get into these dualities at these three different levels, at the level of body, at the level of mind, at the level of ego. So that's why Krishna is giving the example, all 3 scenarios mentioning here, that Shitoshna Sukha Dukkheshu Tatha Mana Apamanayo. Somebody who has conquered his mind, Jitatmanaha Prashantasya Paramatma Samahita. Somebody who has controlled the mind, conquered the mind, he has already attained the Supreme Lord, because he is free from all these 3 levels of dualities. So that is the ultimate goal. If we want to become equipoised, if we want to become free from these dualities, then one need to control the mind. In the previous chapter also, Lord Krishna spoke so much about equanimity, right? Somebody to become equipoised. And how to become equipoised is that one need to control one's mind. One need to purify one's mind. An example, if we take from the scriptures, the story of Jad Bharat. Jad Bharat, he elevated himself from all these different level of dualities. He has fully controlled his mind in one sense. See, his family member, they were not giving him any food. They were asking him to stand in the field and guard the field. And they were just maybe sometime giving him some burnt rice or dried chapatis and all that. Later on, when he was forcibly taken by the dacoits, they gave him nice bath and then dressed him nicely and gave very nice food to eat. So he had this both level of situation, misery for the body earlier, not having proper food, and then having very nice food. But in both stages, he was completely equipoised. And then these dacoits, they tried to kill him. They wanted to give his narbali. And later on, he was saved by the Lord, saved by Goddess Kali, who appeared herself, and rather than these dacoits killing Jadbharat, she killed all these dacoits. So he went through this whole both situation of sukh dukh also, being into a miserable state and then the happiness of being saved also. But he is again completely equipoised. Later on, Jad Bharat, when he was traveling, when he was walking, he met the party of King Rahuguna, and the guards or the servants of King Rahuguna, they engaged Jad Bharat in carrying the palanquin of king. So he was engaged in lifting this palanquin of the king, and the king spoke very harsh words to Jadabharat also. He was dishonored, apaman. And later on, when Jadabharat gave a nice discourse to the king came to his senses, and then he asked forgiveness from Jadabharat, and he glorified Jadabharat. He gave honor to Jadabharat. So he went through this situation of dishonor and honor also. But again, in both situation, he was still equipoised. So he was equal in all these situations of misery at the level of body, misery at the level of mind in terms of happiness, distress, and then fame and disfamy also, infamy also. So that is the state of conquered mind. Krishna is saying somebody who has conquered the mind, he's beyond these three level of dualities, and he has already attained the Supreme Lord. And that is the goal of the living entity, to reach that state of controlling the mind. And when somebody has controlled his mind, what is the vision of that self-realized person? So that is in text 8 and 9, Krishna further explaining the state of a self-realized person who has controlled his mind, who is beyond these three level of dualities. So Krishna says, Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutastho Vijitetrindriyah Yukta iti uchyate yogi samaloshar ashtama kanchana. A person is said to be established in self-realization and is called a yogi when he is fully satisfied by the virtue of acquired knowledge and realization. Such a person is situated in transcendence and is self-controlled. He sees everything, whether it be pebbles, stone, or gold, as the same. Sama loshtra ashma kanchana. For that person, the pebble, stone, and gold are all the same. So somebody who has reached to that stage of self-realization, who has conquered his mind, he sees everything equally. Now, there is a difference in knowledge and self-realization. Right? There is a theoretical knowledge and then realized knowledge. With theoretical knowledge, when we work in this world, when we experience this world, then we gain those realizations. So ultimately, this knowledge, it need to go from our ear to head to heart. Ultimately, it need to go to heart. First, basically, we hear, then with our mind, we contemplate, and then we apply that knowledge. Okay, for example, the map. When we are looking at the map, that is the theoretical knowledge. The map is there in front of you, but how you really utilize that map? If somebody doesn't even know the south, north, east, west, for that person, this map is just a set of lines and everything. He cannot put that map into practice. And same way for the recipe, somebody may have a theoretical understanding of the recipe. Okay, you take this much of dal, this much of rice, this much of spices and all, and then you cook them together and this khichdi will come up. So that may be a theoretical knowledge. But then the realized knowledge is when somebody has practically done that and he got the nice outcome of that, right? That prepared khichdi. So that is the difference in knowledge and self-realization. So obstacle for our progress in spiritual life comes because of two things. One is doubt and other is desires. Okay, the desire arise from the mind and they entrap the karmis, the person who are working in this material world. And the doubts arise from the intelligence, from the intellect, and they entrap the gyanis. So in both ways, either based on the desires or based on the doubts, the person get entrapped in this material world. So these are the obstacle for our progress in spiritual life, doubts and desires. Now we need to free from these doubts and desires. That's why Krishna says, Mai arpita mano buddhir. And surrender your mind and intelligence unto me. So when we become free from these desires and doubts, when somebody reaches to that stage of self-realization, for that person, he start seeing everything equally. For example, um, somebody may have very big degrees. Somebody may have double masters, PhDs. But if those degrees, with those degrees, somebody is not connecting with the Supreme Lord, those degrees are considered useless for that person. And somebody may not even have a degree, but if that person is completely connected with the Supreme Lord, he has controlled his mind. Even though not having any material degree, he is still considered very intelligent, very learned person, very self-realized person. So same way, another example is the gold and stone. Somebody may have lot of wealth, but if that wealth is not utilized in the service of the Supreme Lord, all that wealth is like pebbles. Okay, all that wealth is like the dust. And somebody may not have anything, may not have much valuable, but whatever little he has, if he is utilizing that in the service of the Supreme Lord, that little bit itself becomes like a huge wealth for that person. Because Krishna is not attracted to our external achievements. Krishna is attracted to our devotion and our bhava. So the vision of a devotee is gold and stone are both valued as much as they are in service of Krishna. For example, when Prabhupada was building this ISKCON Vrindavan temple, when Prabhupada returned from America, he reached Delhi airport and devotees were there with a car to drive Prabhupada from airport to Vrindavan. So those few devotees who were with Prabhupada in the car while driving from Delhi to Vrindavan, they were thinking, oh, Prabhupada is now going to Vrindavan. He must be in the mood of Vrindavan, in some deep, Krishna's deep Leela, Vrindavan Leela. And maybe Prabhupada will speak some deep Leelas of Krishna to us. Prabhupada was silent for some time. And after some time, Prabhupada spoke. So how is the temple construction going on? That time, the cement was in scarcity. It was very difficult to acquire the cement bags. So Prabhupada was asking, how many cement bags have you acquired? Are those cement bags kept safe? Because there is scarcity. If you leave those cement bags outside, somebody may steal it. Better you sit on those cement bag with a stick in your hand, guard those cement bags, or kind of lock those cement bags with chains. And the devotees who were sitting with Prabhupada, they were surprised that oh, Prabhupada is talking about all these material things, cement bags and temple construction. And we were thinking Prabhupada will be in some deep Krishna's Leela, absorbed in Krishna Leela. So for Prabhupada, because Prabhupada is focused on building the temple, even though all the material things he's talking about, the bricks, cement and all that, but Prabhupada's purpose is I want to utilize it in Krishna service. I want to build this huge, nice buildings which will attract so many people to come, and I can connect so many people at the lotus feet of the Lord. So Prabhupada was considering this bags of cement like a very valuable items, as if some diamond and gold, right? So for a person, for a devotee, self-realized person who has conquered his mind, he considers the pebble, stone and gold to be equal. As long as they are in service of Krishna, they can be valued equally. But if even somebody has lot of gold, but if it is not used in service of Krishna, that gold is as good as some pebbles only. So that is the vision of a devotee. He considers everything with equal vision, and because he has risen above this dualities of mind, he has attained to the stage of self-realization. So here Krishna has spoken about the nature of the mind and the importance of conquering this mind, raising oneself beyond these different level of dualities. And then from text 9 and 10 onwards, now Krishna will start explaining about the Ashtanga yoga process, and in that how to control the mind and how to bring the mind to focus. We'll discuss those things also. So remember, when we talk about mind control, there are two aspects. One is to purify the mind, and then being in the present moment. Okay, basically bringing the mind to the focus on the present activity on hand. So these are the two different aspects of mind control. Okay, so we'll stop here. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. If anybody has any questions, comments? Okay, anybody? I'm trying to go a little fast. I tried to cover 8-9 verses today, and that's how the flow goes for Bhakti Shastri, because we are not focusing on one verse and going like too much details of that, just going through as a flow of the chapter, the connection of one verse to another verse, just trying to understand the overall content here.
So, Prabhu, when you say about mind control, you said cleaning the mind and focusing, right?
Sorry, say again.
You said cleaning it and focusing, the mind control.
Yes, mind control means, yes, cleaning the mind, basically purify the mind and focus.
So, go ahead, sorry.
Yes, so bringing the mind to the focus on activity which we are doing. For example, somebody is reading some book, be focused on reading that book. You're chanting, focused on chanting, right? At that time, mind not going here and there. So that is the focus, bringing the mind to focus. Purify the mind means becoming it, making it free from all the materialistic thoughts, like all the negative thoughts.
So what if you have a negative thought but you don't act on it?
Yes, that is another intermediate stage, that yes, negative thoughts may be there, but using the intelligence to not act on those negative thoughts, right? So that is basically purify the mind in the beginning stage, that our negative thoughts are coming, but I'm driving those negative thoughts away, right? So not acting on those.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, anything else? Okay, if not, then we can end it here.
Thank you, Prabhu. Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you
Okay.
so much, Prabhu.
Thank you, Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for joining. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.